Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. We are going to do a live stream. Let me just post this in a couple different places and then we will jump in. Hopefully everyone is doing okay. All right, let me post one more places. All right. All right, so here we are. Bitcoin has very quickly recovered from yesterday's dip, pushing back close to 49K. Yeah, it's amazing how many people can get spooked by market dips like that. And again, any person who's been in crypto long enough knows that that is nothing compared to what could theoretically happen. So again, let's be in, don't necessarily be betting the family farm each and every day. Not that it's financial advice. Yeah, one of the things you know if you're new money to the space and you're freaked out because everything's so far overextended, those dips you could consider them opportunities, right? To jump back in, or jump in for the first time potentially. But anyways, one of the things we've discussed, right, is okay. So Bitcoin is trending up right towards 50K. We don't know if it's going to make it, but there's reason to believe that it could make it. So what happens though is if we were to break through it, what would we expect, right? So if Bitcoin were to break through 50K, say this week or next week or at some point and go in and continue to price discovery mode, as we always said, we would expect the dominance to go up. So far, though, the dominance has more or less stayed in this channel. The main time it broke out with daily and week or daily closes and opens was when Bitcoin shot above 42K. Once it came out that Tesla had bought $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. But, not including that, the dominance continues to trend down. And so what that shows is that, when Bitcoin has a nice little correction to the downside, or if it rallies up, the dominance is likely to go up, right? So the price of Bitcoin went up here, and the dominance went up. The price of Bitcoin went down here, and the dominance went up. Okay, so Bitcoin volatility as we know, will likely cause the dominance to go up. And so ultimately the question, I think one of the main questions is, well, is Ethereum going to continue to rally? And as we've discussed, as long as Bitcoin stays above the 20-week moving average, which is, fairly far away at this point, then there's a decent chance that it's clear skies ahead for Ethereum. Again, on any given day, as we've maintained all along, if Bitcoin were to have a slight correction back down, then Ethereum will have a knee-jerk reaction to that and will likely capitulate, or maybe not capitulate's the right word, but will likely dump a little bit harder than Bitcoin. And we can see that's actually true, right? If we look at the daily, if we look at, say, how far Ethereum dipped on that wick, from the top over here to the bottom, it was about a 12% dip. For Bitcoin, it wasn't even close to that, I don't believe. From say the top here down to the bottom, it was more around 7 or 8%. So again, it continues to validate that Ethereum is a slightly more volatile version of Bitcoin, or as we've said before, theoretically one market cycle behind Bitcoin. Um, so this is if you're getting discouraged, right? If you're getting discouraged about the fact that Ethereum has not had a major move yet, and by yet I mean over the last week, because we know that it's been on one hell of a run since March, right? I mean, this is a crazy run here. But let's look back at Bitcoin's approach to the prior all-time high and then see where we are, because we know so far Ethereum has emulated it. And so the question becomes, will it continue to do so? Okay, so if you look at, that's for Bitcoin, and then we're going to draw it for Ethereum as well. So the prior all-time high for Ethereum was in fact around 1440 or so. Okay, so we have the same pattern. So we had this first candle, the second, third, fourth, and the fifth broke above. So if we take a measured move from, say, the bottom of this candle leading up to the top for Bitcoin, it was 15%. For Ethereum, it was 30%. So again, increased volatility for Ethereum. For Bitcoin, the next one, if we say take from the top of the candle to the bottom of the wick, was a 12% retracement. For Ethereum, from the top of the candle to the bottom of the wick was a 26% retracement. Again, you're seeing about double the volatility here. The percent moves are about double that you're seeing for Bitcoin, or you're seeing for Ethereum. From the bottom of this candle to the top, it was about a 12% move for Ethereum. For Bitcoin, on the other hand, it was about 7%. And then from the top of this candle to the bottom of the wick, about a 10% retracement for Bitcoin. And then for Ethereum, from the top to the bottom of the wick, it was about a 13% retracement. So far, as we showed, Ethereum continues to be a slightly more volatile version of Bitcoin. But so then what happened next, right? So after that, Bitcoin had an amazing move above the prior all-time high of 23%. Okay, it moved 23% above as it broke through the prior all-time high. Ethereum at that point had a move about the same, actually, about 23% above. So there it more or less emulated exactly what Bitcoin did. And then here's when we get into the phase of, okay, well, the next candle that Bitcoin put in was a modest 12%. Okay, it was a modest 12%. And then we said, well, what would likely keep Ethereum from only going up about the same amount? And it turns out it went up exactly about the same. What we said would happen for Ethereum to continue to exactly emulate Bitcoin would be if Bitcoin dominance, right? If Bitcoin stays volatile. Okay, so if Bitcoin stays volatile, then Ethereum will only, quote unquote, only have a 12% week. Again, it's comical to say only because obviously 12% in a week is a lot, but the current market conditions have a way of jading our expectations. So then if we were to continue to emulate what Bitcoin did, the following week for Bitcoin was a 26% move from open to close, and all the way to the top of the wick, it was a 33% move. So if Ethereum, so the way in which I could see Ethereum moving up, say 33%, would be if Bitcoin volatility is able to calm down sometime this week. Imagine a scenario where Bitcoin does not break 50K and just kind of hangs out here, right? Imagine it hangs out between like 46 to 49K for a few days. Then I think there is a reasonable chance, a decent chance, that Ethereum Bitcoin is able to rally back up. Okay, that is contingent on Bitcoin volatility calming down. So if Bitcoin were to do that, what would a 33% move this week look like? Well, from the bottom, or from the open to the close, a 33%, or to the wick, suppose, then it would correspond to around a $2,400 Ethereum. So, if at the very least, Ethereum is able to emulate exactly what Bitcoin did, which it did for the last 2 weeks, and before the last 2 weeks, it was a more volatile version of Bitcoin. But if it continues to emulate what Bitcoin did over the last few weeks, a 33% move from here would take it to $2,400. Okay, now you might think that's far-fetched, and maybe we fast forward a week from now and Ethereum is below $1,800. And we know that if Ethereum is below $1,800, then it's most likely coming on the idea that Bitcoin's going back down. But if Ethereum continues to emulate, where would that put Ethereum? And I should say, that's exactly if it were to do exactly what Bitcoin did. I mean, if it continued to increase its volatility, as we've seen before, I mean, we could even go somewhat higher if the market conditions stay like this. So let's look here again at the 20-week moving average. Okay, so we're going to look at this to see where we are. It's time for an update. Now, so far, we don't really have, and I should pull up a different exchange that has a little bit more data. So one of the things you can note is that as it has done for Bitcoin, we see that every major peak continues to be slightly diminished in terms of its extension from the 20-week moving average. Okay, it continues to be diminished. We also saw the exact same thing we've seen the exact same thing for Bitcoin each market cycle. So we'll just play the same little game we normally play and see how high we could theoretically go and maintain this trend, right? So if you were to look at, say, the same indicator for Bitcoin, where you look at the log, the natural log of the price over the 20-week moving average, so far, more or less, each cycle, our major peaks are not outperforming the extension from the 20-week as the prior cycle did. Okay, it's not a perfect fit, but the point is to show that diminishing volatility is a thing, right? We're not getting as extended from the 20-week so far that we did last cycle. Now, what would need to happen for us to get as far extended? Well, we would need to go to evaluation here of around 1.04, 1.05. Let's say 1.04. Let me zoom in to get it exactly. Yeah, 1.04. So let's see where the price of Bitcoin would need to go to actually get to the same level of overextension as it was in late 2017. So we need to get the 20-week moving average, and we know that the 20-week moving average is currently at 25,731. Okay? So if the natural log of the price divided by 25,731 were to equal 1.04, then for us to get to the same level of overextension from the 20-week moving average that we reached back in late 2017, the price of Bitcoin would need to get to almost $73,000 this week. And you might say, well, why does it have to do it this week? Why can't it be next week? Well, it could do it next week, but we have to recognize that the 20-week moving average will be higher next week. Again, next week, the 20-week moving average could be 26,500. If the 20-week moving average next week is 26,500, then to get to the same level of overextension from the 20-week that we did in 2017, then the price of Bitcoin might need to go to $75,000 next week. Again, it's a moving target. So we're still not as extended as we were at the peak in 2017, which more or less continues the trend that so far each cycle we have been getting not quite as extended from the 20-week moving average. Now you might say, well, does this mean this is a peak? No, absolutely not. This doesn't mean that. You can see that we have an example of where it did not mean it was a peak in 2013. You can see here. We came up to this macro trend line down, and it was this. It was not the final peak, so it's possible that we hit it, and then maybe we come down, and then we come back up later on, okay? And remember, the way in which we could come down might not indicate that the price has to come down. Even if the price were to go sideways, because we're comparing it to the 20-week, then this indicator would come back down because the 20-week moving average is a moving target that right now, and for the last several months, has been monotonically increasing. So if this trend were to hold for Ethereum, and by the way, we know this trend won't hold forever, as we've said many, many times, but if this same trend were to hold for Ethereum, we might expect us not to be able to reach the same level of overextension that we did in, say, June of 2017. This might be too lofty of a goal. to do in the short term. Again, in the short term. So what does that mean? Let's calculate that out. What would be too lofty of a goal for Ethereum this week? What would be too lofty of a goal? Well, we just need to simply look here and see what the 20-week moving average is, right? So the 20-week is at 870, let's say 876. And this would correspond to a valuation of 1.47. So if the log of the price divided by 876 were to equal 1.47, okay, so if it were to go to 1.47 this week, what would it put the price of Ethereum? It would put it at $3,800. What this implies is that $3,800 is likely too lofty of a goal for Ethereum to reach this coming week. $3,800 would put it at the same level of overextension that it was here. And if our thesis is that it's one market cycle behind Bitcoin in terms of volatility, then also in terms of diminishing returns as well, we might not expect it. We might expect it to get not as far extended from each of these major moves that it has, right? We had two of them in this cycle. We had one here, and we had one here. And by the way, again, as we said, this trend line will eventually break, because otherwise, in about a decade, it would assume that the price always stays below the 20-week moving average at some point, which simply will not be true. But the point is to say that so far, each and every market cycle, the extension from the 20-week is diminishing. We've talked about this for months, and the reason we talk about it is because it remains to be true, right? I mean, so far, we still have not reached the same level of overextension as we did back in June of 2017, which was not at the same level of overextension from the 20-week as we had in February of 2016. So, what could theoretically happen and still maintain the integrity of this downtrend? By the way, if you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel and give the video a thumbs up. We have less than 200 likes, so make sure you hit the thumbs up button and make sure you subscribe to the channel. So if 3,800 is likely too lofty a goal this week, what would be a theoretical point it could reach this week and more or less maintain the integrity of this macro trend line down? Well, we would say, okay, well, let's go look at this week, the week of February 15th. We could go to a valuation of 1.17 this week and still more or less not be putting in anything that's outperforming prior moves, right? So if we were to go to 1.17, where would that put the price of Ethereum? That would be this week, and this would be theoretically possible based on this macro trend line down. So Ethereum could theoretically go to $2,800 this week and still not go above this trend line. Okay, so again, I'm not saying Ethereum will go to $2,700 or $2,800 this week, but I'm saying if it did, then it still would not be outperforming this, and it still would be more or less in the general idea that this is a macro level trend line down. Sorry, so let me see. Could I argue the more times the resistance line is tested, the higher the probability of it breaking? Yeah, I mean, you could theoretically argue that. And as I said, this trend line will eventually break. Depending on how you draw the trend line, you could say it already has broken. The point is to just say that so far we're seeing diminished volatility above the 20-week moving average each cycle. That doesn't mean it can't break. It just means that, from a risk management point of view, I would prefer to temper my expectations and be pleasantly surprised if something else were to happen. So, again, you might say, well, does that imply that Ethereum can only go to $2,800 before a major pullback? Of course not. As we said, the 20-week moving average is a moving target. I mean, if we were to go to 1.17 next week and the 20-week moving average were, say, 915, then it would correspond to an Ethereum valuation of $2,900. So it all depends on how long it takes to get there, at what rate the 20-week moving average is moving up, etc. So, with that said, for Ethereum, the main way that Ethereum could continue to emulate Bitcoin on these weekly candles and go up 33% this week, like Bitcoin did on the same path, then it would likely mean that Bitcoin volatility is reducing and that somehow Bitcoin is able to either get comfortable at this level or maybe go up a K, 1,000, down $1,000, right? What's a few K among friends, and then start trending sideways there. So hopefully that makes sense, and hopefully this has been useful. Yeah, I see a lot of people talking about Cardano. Yeah, I mean, everyone's talking about it. As I said before, you have to talk about risk, right? And if you follow this channel long enough, we were talking about ADA at 2 cents. So now that it's at 87 cents, it's not like it's necessarily as great of a buy as it was in the past. It doesn't mean it can't go up, but I guarantee you that, well, I can't guarantee anything, I guess, and none of this is financial advice. But there's going to be a lot of people that were accumulating ADA at 2 cents, 3 cents, and 4 cents that are no longer accumulating it now. That doesn't necessarily mean they're selling all their ADA. It just means, you know what, they're up like 40x or something, and they're just kind of happy to let it ride. Sometimes it can be a tough pill to swallow, as someone who was accumulating ADA at those levels. It would be hard to accumulate it at these levels because you're getting so much less of it, right? I mean, it was only like 11 months ago where you could pick up ADA for 3 cents or so. And so the idea of picking it up at a literal 30x markup is a tough pill to swallow, and that's why I talk about managing risk, right? It doesn't mean that we don't want ADA to go up. It just means that buying it at a 30x premium from where it was 11 months ago is not something that a lot of people are going to want to do. The main people that are going to want to do that, I think, fall into 2 categories, okay? It's the people that are married to ADA, they're married to an altcoin, and they'll just support ADA come hell or high water, right? Then no matter what happens, they will support ADA, they will continue to buy it because they ultimately see it going to $10 or higher, and I'm not saying it can't, right? It could go there this market cycle, but this is their pet project, and they will ride it as high as it'll go, and they'll also likely ride it as low as it will go and continue to support the project no matter what. So there's people that fall into this category. And then the other people that will continue buying at these levels are likely the people that are new to the space, right? So they did not buy ADA over the last year, and they're trying to figure out, okay, does it make sense now to buy it or not? Again, there's a decent chance that ADA will trend up over the course of the market cycle, but you are fighting against the fact that it is up like 30x over, in less than a year. So those are the two. I would say, those are the 2 main groups that fall into that category. And I think it's important that you just recognize, what category you fall in, right? If you're married to ADA, if you're married to an altcoin, you have to be able to swallow the pill when, swallow the idea that it could come back down for a while before trending back up. So as long as you're okay. As long as you're generally okay with that idea for ADA. By the way, I drew this line on one of the on my last ADA video, and it actually looks like it conveniently came back down to the bottom of it. Let's take a look. So here it is. So again, I'm an ADA bull. I want to see ADA go to several dollars. I would like to see ADA go to several dollars in the short term, but you also have to recognize there is a lot of risk involved, and if that frustrates you, then my recommendation would be to not wait to get into the markets when they're all over the news. You want to be that sneaky guy or lady coming in when the market is calm and no one's talking about it, or people are just saying everything's going to zero. Okay. It's easy to look back at a chart and say you wish you bought over here, or you wish you bought over here. It's easy to do that. It takes a lot more courage to actually do it, and the people that actually did it are reaping the rewards. If you want to have that experience, then the next bear market that we're in, you need to have the diligence and that resolve to not leave the market, right? You need to stay focused, because that's where the real money is made. The real money, again, as I said before, is not made in FOMOing into altcoins when they're up 30x. Yes, you can make money, because if ADA goes to $3 or something and you're buying it at 87 cents, you're doing pretty well. But I don't know that I would necessarily consider that to be life-changing money. Okay? Life-changing money is money that comes in down here and even over here. That's life-changing money. So if you want to become life-changing money, then in order to do that, you need to make sure that you're sticking around when it's not cool to stick around anymore. So the one of the things that it makes it hard for new people is exactly the same types of dips we saw last night, right? I mean, I bet you there's more than a handful of people that bought ADA at 95 cents and then capitulated their entire position at 70 cents. Okay, there's probably a lot of people that bought at 95 cents and then they capitulated at 70 cents and then now it's right back up to 87 cents. Don't be this person, okay? Now, there's a difference between that and maybe if you were buying at 2 cents and 3 cents, there's a difference between just maybe taking profits at this level, skimming profits off the top. Doesn't mean you have to sell your whole position, but you could say, well, ADA is up 30x, maybe I want to take a little bit of profits. Maybe I want to move it back into Bitcoin or back into Ethereum in recognition that when the market does dump, I'd rather have some higher level of protection. Again, I still own a lot of ADA and I want to see it trend much higher, but you have to consider those possibilities. The ADA Ether valuation, as we can see, so far in the short term, we have not managed to get above our prior sort of resistance level. Now, at the end of the day, these resistance levels can drop fairly easily, but this is the fourth time. This could be the fourth time that we hold resistance at this level. This is the ADA Ether valuation. I have contended before, though, that if there are conditions that exist that would allow the ADA Ether valuation to go past this level and maybe go up another 150% against Ether, then these would be the conditions that would allow for it, like altcoin season. Okay, when the dominance of Bitcoin is dropping like a rock week over week over week, these would be the conditions that would theoretically allow for it. So we'll see if we can break back above it. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and give the video a thumbs up. Let's get to 1,000 likes. And thank you guys for getting me to 120,000 subscribers. Let's go for 125,000. We also do have a Telegram channel with over 16,000 people. If you guys are looking for a chat community, I would encourage you to check it out. And also, as another reminder, if you want maybe some help navigating these markets or more insight, you should check out the premium list altcoin season sale. You can find a link to that in the description below, and I'll also put it in the comments. You get access to the weekly reports, the weekly videos, the risk dashboard, the alerts channel on Telegram, and the trading view indicators. So you get access to a whole lot of stuff, so make sure you guys check it out. And again, if you want to go talk about micro caps, which I would prefer you don't do in the main channel, but if you want to go talk about micro caps, we also have an Into the Cryptocosm group that you can go ahead and go talk in. By the way, the scammers are getting fairly rampant in the space. I'll use this as a reminder that most of the comments most of the comments on the videos are not me. Occasionally it will be me, and you can see that it's me because I think it's like there's like a white check mark or it looks different than everyone else. There's a lot of people posting like phone numbers and that sort of stuff. That's not me. Don't fall for those scams. And if you join the Telegram channel, if you're on Telegram or something and someone is messaging you pretending to be me, they're not me. I will not message you first. So don't fall for the scams. That's one way to know we are in a mania phase, is that the scammers, the scum, right, the absolute scum, will come out of every nook and cranny they can come out of and start trying to scam everyone from their hard-earned money. So do not fall for it. All right, so let's see. So Bitcoin, let's do a recap. Let's see where everything is. So Bitcoin's at 48.5. What we would like for Ethereum, for if we want to see an Ethereum move this week, we want Bitcoin volatility to calm down. Okay, that doesn't mean it calms down at 48.5. It could drop to 47.5 and then calm down. Maybe it goes back into price discovery mode and kicks the can down the road for a little bit for Ethereum. So Bitcoin's at 48.5. Ethereum is at let's see, it's at 1818. So Ethereum is still doing quite well. We still have not made it to the elusive $1,900. But as long as Bitcoin holds these levels, and there's a decent chance that even if Bitcoin valuation does not go up against USD, there's a good chance that Ethereum would hit $1,900 or maybe even 2K. The Ether Bitcoin valuation is at 0.0374, so nothing to really write home about yet. Maybe we'll see if we can bounce off the same level that we've held as resistance in the past. ADA is at 87 cents. As we showed, it looks like it's more or less following this parabolic move. Note that so far we've moved up and then we kind of trend sideways until we get to it and then go up and then we kind of go sideways until we get to it and then we go up and then maybe we're kind of going sideways until we get to it. It might be a few more days, right? It could be a few more days potentially before we see another ADA move, and when we do see a move, maybe it propels it well above the $1 mark. So we will certainly keep an eye on ADA. You guys know I am a Cardano bull, and it is my primary hedge against Ethereum. Link, right? I mean, I honestly cannot imagine navigating these markets without Link. It is such a champ. And again, it shows you that it's able to perform well even when the market is not, right? Yesterday, there was or 2 days ago, the market wasn't really doing much of anything, and Link was going to $35. So Link is continuing to put in fairly impressive numbers, and hopefully we'll come up on a $40 Link in the not so distant future. And then we will check on Polkadot. So Polkadot has trended back up. I haven't sold any Polkadot. It did just it's had a pretty interesting capitulation down to $23, and now it's back up to $29. This is one that, as I've said before, as I said last year, I kind of like having a coin that I just sort of hold for a while and let it run its course. Especially a new coin, because I don't really think it has any mental barriers that it has to get through. So yeah, I mean, and again, you can earn interest on these coins depending on, through various platforms. So you could still, even if you had some Polkadot and you didn't want to put in more USD, you could still accumulate more Polkadot. There's a lot of different ways you can do that. Bitcoin, if we look at the weekly chart, is it still emulating what Ethereum did in 2015, 2016? Well, we'll have to wait and see. It looks like it's trying to. It's trying to break out of this level, similar to what Ethereum did back in 2015, 2016. The same sort of move, right? Down in Q4, back up in Q1, and then it broke through in February and continued a lot higher. The same thing that we're looking at for DOT, right? Down in Q4, back up in Q1, January, and then broke through in February. So hopefully we'll see DOT Bitcoin break through. How's everyone doing today? Make sure you give the video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Definitely subscribe to the channel if you guys like the content. And yes, I am still waiting on a theoretical Ethereum tsunami. A short-term retracement by Bitcoin is not going to change my hopes that Ethereum is able to come through and sweep up a lot of the gains from some of the altcoins and go an amazing run itself. We can also look at our Ethereum regression rainbow if you guys want to take a look at it. We are systematically trending up through it, which is a good thing because these are also monotonically increasing functions, and despite that, we're still trending up past them. So in order for us to get to the next level, we would need to go to about a $2,800 Ethereum. So $2,800 Ethereum today would sort of get us to the top of the next regression band. And that would be here. And then the top of the next one would be up here. Note that again, as I said before, I don't think we'll make it up to this one. And I have my doubts that we'll make it up to this one. But I think the orange one, as we said a few weeks ago, and we're already in right now, the orange one is still theoretically on the cards, and the purple one is still theoretically on the cards too. You might say, well, why can't it come up to these other regression levels? And again, the reason is because we expect it to have diminished returns. At least I do. Maybe you don't. Same thing with Bitcoin, right? The same general idea that it trends down. It doesn't quite make it to the prior log band tops that it did from each cycle before. So we would likely expect the same thing for Ethereum, likely to not go to this upper log band up here. So did you guys like the stream yesterday where my wife came on the show? Someone says buy Bitcoin. The buy Bitcoin song was the best. Oh, by the way, an interesting development too, and this is something you guys need to keep an eye on as we navigate the crypto market. Keep an eye on DXY. Bitcoin has rallied recently, yes, and what has happened? DXY got rejected by its 20-week moving average. Okay, so, but this is the same level that it fought for months back in 2018. Okay, the same level. So we need to keep an eye on this. If you see the dollar, the US dollar currency index breaking through this band, it likely is not going to be a good thing. As long as it continues to kind of get rejected by it, then there's a decent chance that Bitcoin continues to stay in price discovery mode. You can see we just had a wick up to it on the week of February 1st, but we ultimately got rejected and have headed back down. The current 20-week moving average of DXY is at 91.391. But again, it's a moving target, and it will change week over week. So this is what I would be looking at to try to get some clarity into the crypto markets, and also maybe even the stock market as well. How to buy Cardano as a U.S. resident? Oh, there's a ton of ways you can buy Cardano as a U.S. resident. I mean, there's tons of exchanges, right? I mean, just go to any of the major exchanges. Not any of them, I guess, but there's a lot of major exchanges that you can find them on. And if you're not sure, you can always just go to CoinMarketCap, click on the coin, and then click on markets, and it'll show you what exchanges it's trading on. What are the books behind me? Just mainly school books, like from my time in school and my wife's time in school. That's what most of them are. How can one estimate how long the bull market will last? Well, again, I get a lot of flack for this, but I mean, you guys know my general opinion. My general opinion is this one will take longer than the last one, which was longer than the last one, which was longer than the one before that. Again, if you take measured moves from, say, the bottom to the top, This one was 322 days. This one was 742 days. This one was 1,064 days. And then so far in this one, we are at 784 days. So I think this market cycle will last longer than the last one, which was longer than the one before that, which was longer than the one before that. If you measure it from, say, top to top, 910 days from top to top. This top to top was 1,491 days. So again, I would expect the next one to be further out. And if you just say extrapolate these, this was 322, this was 742, this was 1,064. If we assume the next one's like 1,400, 1,500, then it could be putting us at the end of 2022 at the earliest, or maybe even further out. Again, it doesn't mean that there's not going to be some scary times where the market might come back down like that or something. But I do think this cycle will be longer than the previous ones. And from a fundamental standpoint too, as I've said, I think that institutions will help continue to drive things up for a while longer. Especially if the narrative of this cycle is that institutional money is propping the prices up, right? I don't think that institutional money is going to stop buying Bitcoin in 2021. It'll probably just be a train that continues to get going. And my interpretation is that, institutions will buy, retail will FOMO in. Because institutions are buying, you might get a FOMO move, and then things might come back down for a little while, and then you keep rinsing and repeating the same thing. So whether you measure it bottom to top, you can see the cycles. This was 322 days, 742 days, 1,064 days. I would expect this one to be even longer, but it doesn't mean there's not going to be some scary times in the meantime. Okay, it doesn't mean there's not going to be scary times in the meantime. If you measure it top to top, right, this one was let's say 903 days, and then the following one was around 1,484 days. So if we were to go out maybe another 400 days from there or so, it could put the next top in 2023 potentially. Or if you want to measure it, say, bottom to bottom, then you have 470 days or so, then 1,162 days. The next one was 1,435 days. If we continue on that same path, and the next one is, say, like 1,900 days or 1,800 days, and it could put the next bottom in, say, late 2023, early 2024. I don't really know. We'll have to wait and see. That's my interpretation of the market. I understand that it does not fit with everyone's, but that is what I feel like the data communicates to me. How do you reliably adapt macro trends from previous years to the current cycle when the environment has fundamentally changed? I mean, as I said before, I think all models are wrong, right? I ultimately think all models are wrong. Some are useful, though, and we try to use these useful ones to give us some indication as to where we are within the cycle. Okay, this is ultimately, I think, the point. Not to say that every model we show on here is going to give you the exact time where things may top out or something. Yeah, I mean, Dogecoin is a meme coin. Someone asked me about that. And yeah, I mean, so someone's asking about the regression. As I've said before, I think the main one to use is the bottom one. It's fit to like 1,000, 2,000 data points or so. The top one is only fit to 3 data points. So my guess is that we'll definitely need to refit this top one whenever we figure out what the next peak is. Again, I don't know. We could easily go above this regression line and then come down later on, and then we'll just have to fit it to, say, a new data point. Okay, this is only fit to 3 data points, so this peak regression band is not meant to be something that identically predicts the top. What are your thoughts about the pi cycle top indicator? As I said before, I think that, you know, as any model is, right, you can fit an indicator to 3 data points. It doesn't mean that it's going to be predictive. So I would say there is a chance it can be predictive, and it's one more model that you can use. But I would not necessarily bet the family farm on fitting 3 data points. It would basically be the same idea as saying that, okay, these 3 data points, this regression curve is a model that can't be broken, which is simply not true, right? It can be broken. We can go above it. There's a decent chance we go above it. And then whenever we have a 4th data point, wherever that 4th data point ends up being, where we have a new cycle top, we'll then be a little bit more confident about the fit. But so far, we only have 3 data points. So I would say these regression bands are instrumental for the accumulation phases. But for the peaks, as I've always said, you need to have a little bit more flexibility with only fitting to 3 data points. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Let's go for 125,000 subscribers. I'm not even sure where we are. I think we're at we're at 120,000 right now. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. Give the video a thumbs up. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. My guess is that it was not very accurate, right? If you were to go back and say fit this regression curve to only these 2 data points, my guess is that the regression curve would have actually come up more. Like maybe it would have come up here, like that. I don't know. I haven't fit just these 2 data points. I think I did, but it was a long time ago. Or no, I didn't fit those. I fit these, right? Like if you fit this one and this one, then it ultimately gives you one that looks more like this. And if you fit these 3, then it ultimately gives you one that looks more like this. But the point is to say, if you fit it at the end of each bear market, right? So if you fit it at the bottom, which is what we did, we fit it through data to the beginning of 2019, then it has historically been a good predictor for an accumulation phase for that cycle. So like what I'm saying is, like, you know, if you fit this data and then this data, then it would have been a pretty good predictor of this accumulation phase. Or if you fit this data, and all of this data, and this data, then it would have been a pretty good predictor of this accumulation phase. In the same manner, what we did this cycle was we fit all of this data as well as this data, and it still was a good predictor of the accumulation phase. So if in the future we come back down into the regression band, we'll refit it, okay? We'll refit it, and then hopefully we can use that again as a good predictor of the accumulation phase. So that's generally, I think these regression bands are more useful for the accumulation phase because it's fit to a lot more data, and then you refit it whenever you get to, say, back into the regression band after a long bear market, and then it's useful for predicting the next accumulation phase, which I feel like it was because we only fit it to data through this point right here, and it still was a decent indicator of where we were remaining in the accumulation zone. For the peaks, as I've said before, if we end up breaking this band, I'm not going to be the least bit surprised. Now let's look at the where it currently ranges from. So the band currently ranges from 57,225 up to 84,344. So for us to break it in the short term, Bitcoin would need to go up to $84,000. Okay, not saying it can't happen. It's certainly a possibility that we're able to break this band this cycle, and then we'll have a fourth data point to look at. Someone said I should repeat the analysis on the cycle length. You know, again, this is what I get the most flack for on the channel. I've decided, you know, I'll talk about it occasionally, but it pisses a lot of people off, so we don't talk about it quite as much. But the general idea is if you were to measure, say, bottom to peak, this one was 315 days. This one was, you know, closer to 700, 800 days or so, 749 days. If you measured this bottom to this peak, it was 1,071 days. So this was, you know, this was a 4-year cycle, but the one before that one, I don't know if I mean, unless you combine these two. So then this one, we'll see how long it goes. Okay. But you can see that these numbers have increased so far. Yeah, I'm not going to keep answering your question about Dogecoin. I've already answered it once. Thoughts on Avalanche? Yeah, we have a video on Avalanche, so I would say go check out the Avalanche video. Is owning 0.5 Bitcoin a lot? I mean, I think it probably depends on what your definition of a lot is. A lot means a very different thing, you know, very different things to different people. The main altcoins that I have are, I mean, obviously you guys know I own Bitcoin and Ethereum, but the main altcoins that I have are Link, ADA, and DOT. And then I also have, as I mentioned on the channel a few weeks ago, Avalanche. Me getting bullish on Ethereum is nice to see. I've been bullish on Ethereum for a long time. Be careful. Be careful with all the YouTubers shilling you their leverage trading affiliate links because, you know, you can lose a lot of money. You can lose a lot of money doing that. So obviously they get a nice commission by you doing that. So just be careful. Be careful if you do leverage trade. I don't recommend it, and we'll never recommend it here. But if you are following these other guys's, you know, these other guys' YouTube or their affiliate links to leverage trading, just note that a lot of people do that, and a lot of people lose a lot of money. Do I own Uniswap? I do actually. Yeah, I do have some. I do. I mean, you can even see it right here on the little watch list. I do own Uni. Someone says being bullish on Ethereum is like saying I like eating food. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've been so bullish on Ethereum since it was $100 not that long ago. That's why we said the accumulation phase of a lifetime at 235, the reaccumulation phase of a lifetime at 400. That's why we continue to say, you know, it was a huge opportunity for Ethereum. And it doesn't mean that there's no longer an opportunity. It just means that the risk on it at 1800 is a lot higher than it was at $100. But I still hope it can trend much higher. I certainly did not, promote so many Ethereum videos on the idea that it would top out at $1,800 this market cycle. I think it will go much higher, but it's going to be a bumpy road. Thoughts on doing a PhD on computational magnetohydrodynamics? Is it a field that can be easily applicable to multiple areas? Well, I actually took a class on magnetohydrodynamics. It was one of the classes I took in graduate school. Um, I mean, you're basically setting yourself up to mainly do research, maybe at like a national lab or a university. I'm guessing you're interested in um, that line of work. I mean, it'll close some doors, it'll open other doors. So if you like hydrodynamics and computational hydrodynamics, it's a lot of hard work, right? There's a lot of I mean, I took that class. Fortunately, they didn't have any tests in that class, but we did have projects and homework. It was a tough class, I'll say that. Um, it probably would be a fairly difficult PhD. I only took one class on it though, so my friend who does MHD is a postdoc at Stanford, but looking to do business consulting. No idea if that's going to work out or not. Yeah, I think one of the nice things about studying that type, I mean, it teaches you how to think, right? If you if you can do these projects or these degrees and it helps you learn how to think, and then you can apply that, you can theoretically apply that to any other field. There's a lot of people who do PhDs or major in mathematics or a STEM field in general, whether it's a graduate degree or not. A lot of these guys end up working on Wall Street because the same type of algorithms that you might develop, the same understanding of a lot of the algorithms you might develop in, say, physics or math, you can apply that same skill set into financial markets. Okay, this is why a lot of quants on Wall Street have graduate level degrees in STEM fields. I mean, I sincerely doubt there's a lot of quants on Wall Street that that are making $20 million a year that did not go knee deep into the STEM field, right? I don't see that. I think that most people who are doing that type of work spent years programming and learning mathematics, etc. The Italian a stallion, what a name, is asking, not financial advice here, but if someone had around 2 to 5K to throw away, what are some good altcoins to consider if you're just starting out? I mean, I can tell you my main altcoins again, or the main coins I hold in general. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Link, ADA, and DOT are the main ones. Also some Avalanche. I also hold some Uniswap and a few others that we talk about on the premium list. When I say STEM field, it's not STIM, it's STEM. Science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Remember to subscribe to the channel and give the video a thumbs up if you guys like the content. I will remind you, we also have a Telegram channel with over 16,000 people. So if you guys are looking to join a chat room to continue the party after the show, make sure you check that out in the comments or in the description below. Scott says, after crypto cools down, am I considering architecture as new field? I'm assuming he's alluding to my house and garage TA drawings. Probably not. Do I believe ADA has a chance to get to $25 this run, or is that not feasible? Probably not feasible, but I don't think anything's... I wouldn't say necessarily anything's impossible, but let's go take a look at Ethereum. What did Ethereum do? And then we'll take a look at how that might compare it to what ADA could theoretically do. But again, I would be very skeptical. So last cycle, Ethereum from the bottom, let's say the bottom's here, to the top, went up about 326,000%. If ADA were to do the same thing, and let's just take it from the absolute bottom here, 326,000. I mean, so let's say, where would $25 be? So $25 would be 147,000%. I'm not going to say it can't happen, but I would be surprised if it did. And honestly, if we reached $25, I probably would not own very much of my ADA anymore, because I would consider it too hot, right? Too risky. I would probably want to offload that into something a little bit less risky. Is there a possibility that the ridiculous fees on Ethereum could lead people to other blockchains? It's possible. This is why I have hedges, right? I have hedges against Ethereum. But at the end of the day, a lot of the development is happening on Ethereum, which is why I own more Ethereum than any other coin besides Bitcoin. Yeah, I mean, I think a several dollar ADA is possible even on this short-term move we're having right now. Like, if ADA were at $2 or $3 in a few weeks, I would not be that surprised. I also would not be surprised if it went to $3, if it then retraced back down to $1 or something. But I think we'll just have to take it one step at a time. What do I mean by hedging against Ethereum? I mean, like, the idea is don't put all your eggs in one basket type of thing, right? This is why I also have Polkadot and Cardano, because what if another chain ultimately becomes more popular? It doesn't seem like it's likely, but again, everyone always says, they wish they bought something. It's easy to look in hindsight and say, oh, you wish you bought that. It's hard. It's much harder to do it, and so that's why Ethereum is my largest position other than Bitcoin. And then I have some other positions like ADA and Polkadot. What are my view on NFTs, non-fungible tokens? Yeah, I'm generally bullish on them. Do I own any DOT? Of course I own DOT. We had many videos on the channel discussing that DOT was in accumulation between $3 to $6. Maybe some people who watch the channel remember that time, right? We said this is the accumulation phase for DOT, and we'll probably look back at it and say, what a great accumulation phase. And here we are. Here we are. Have I noticed the hate geared towards Cardano? No, I haven't, but I haven't really spent that much time looking into it. I mean, again, anytime a project starts going up in valuation, there's going to be people that are going to hate on it. Honestly, if a coin were going up and that didn't receive some type of hate or FUD or something, then I would be worried. My two largest positions have the least ROI potential. Yeah, they do. But I also have other positions, and they also have the least chance of dropping 99%. Someone says they bought DOT at 8, not sure when to exit. For me, for DOT, I'm just kind of letting this one ride for a while. I don't really have any plans to sell anytime soon, but I mean, if this puts in another several X multiple, then then maybe. The hard part is short-term capital gains, because it only launched here in August, so we still have several, half a year basically to go before we would theoretically get to long-term capital gains. Obviously, that would not apply to everyone, but if you live in the United States, it would apply. But I'm not a CPA, so contact your own accountant if you have questions. I do not offer financial advice. What was my worst prediction in 2021? I don't think I've had many bad ones in 2021 so far. Probably one of the worst ones in 2020 was I bought XRP at I mean, now it's recovered, but I bought it just about 50 cents right before the SEC announced the lawsuit. So that was probably my biggest fail of 2020. And the reason was because if you look at its valuation against Bitcoin, um, it seemed reasonable, right? It seemed at that cycle low. Uh, right? This is XRP Bitcoin. So historically, when XRP is at these levels, I understand that everyone hates XRP. You can take it somewhere else. The point is when historically when XRP has been at these levels, it's only been a matter of time before it rockets back up. And a lot of times it happens after Bitcoin gets to the prior all-time high. However, this time the lawsuit and the idea that Americans cannot really buy it anymore has temporarily changed, kind of maybe what it would have otherwise done. So that was probably the biggest fail. Probably deserve it though because it is XRP. All right, William. I said to take it somewhere else, and since you didn't, I'll make you take it somewhere else. Yeah, I mean, I have high. I hope that Monero does well. Someone says they realize I'm only holding the top projects. It's a problem that I feel like everyone mentions. You primarily only talk about Bitcoin, Ethereum, Linkada, and Dot. When we first started covering these projects, they were not the top projects. But I can't just magically create a new project that I want to discover or that I want to talk about every few weeks if the ones that I were already talking about navigate their way up to the top coins, right? I would rather just find the coins that are likely going to perform among the best and then just stick with those, not constantly chase other coins. No, we don't have super chats. We don't have time. We don't have time for tips. Just go invest your money. Um, what else do you guys want to talk about? I would keep an eye on the ADA Ether valuation and see if it's able to break through this. If not, it could imply that either Bitcoin's capitulating or the Ethereum tsunami has started. And if the Ethereum tsunami starts, where it theoretically scoops up a lot of altcoin gains or a lot of them bleed back into Ethereum, then ADA is going to come back down. If the Ethereum tsunami does not occur for several more weeks and Bitcoin stays more or less stagnant at these levels, then ADA against Ethereum can continue higher. Do I hedge against crypto in general with stocks? Of course. I own tons of equities, mutual funds, all sorts of stuff like that. So I think that it's good. It's good to diversify, right? If you're using crypto to increase your wealth, you can systematically take profits out of altcoins, especially. Don't marry an altcoin, is what I would like to say. Not that it's financial advice. You could put them over into stocks or something. I mean, stocks are kind of overheated too. But if crypto crashes, say 80% or something, you don't want your net worth crashing by 80%. So consider that. Yeah, we've talked about VeChain a little bit. It's also kind of having a run against Ethereum, or at least it did the other day. We've showed this chart on the channel before, the VeChain Ethereum chart. You can see it here. We had it even it's even circled. The idea that we were at a pretty historic low for ADA, or sorry, for VeChain Ethereum, and that maybe it would bounce if we stay in these levels. So it's kind of has bounced back up here. So if VeChain were to go back up to prior peaks against Ethereum, it's a big if, right? It could rally maybe another 100-some% potentially. This is of course contingent on a major Ethereum move not happening. Make sure you guys subscribe. Subscribe to the channel. Let's go for 125,000 subscribers and give the video a thumbs up. Looks like we did reach 1,000 likes. Maybe we can go for 1,500. And remember, we do have a Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below, and I'll post it in the chat as well. And then another reminder is that we have the premium list into the cryptoverse.com. If you want the altcoin season sell, you can lock in the lower rate for a little while longer. Check that out in the description below or in the comments. You get access to the weekly reports, the weekly videos, the alerts channel on Telegram, the trading view indicators, and more. No, I did not. I did not request the silver play button yet. I really don't have time to do that right now. Maybe I'll do it later. Who cares? Is the premium list worth it for low budget investors? Probably not, right? Just invest your money if it's going to eat into that a lot. It's probably better. What do people mean by tsunami? What I would say is, like, imagine you have like every altcoin is kind of like a wave at the beach, right? You have altcoin A, and it's like a wave, and it goes on an amazing run. And then you have altcoin B, and it has a wave, and it goes on an amazing run. And then altcoin C. But then eventually, if Bitcoin stays relatively bullish but not volatile, so that Ethereum can run, then at some point these gains, or a lot of these these people that are making money in altcoins will probably take a lot of profits back to Ethereum, and then a lot of it just gets sucked into Ethereum, and then you get a nice massive Ethereum wave that kind of puts everything else to shame. Not put it to shame in the idea that Ethereum will yield a higher ROI, but that whenever Ethereum has a massive move, it will likely leave the rest of the market speechless. That's the idea. Do I watch any other crypto YouTube? I mean, honestly, not really right now. I just don't have time. Um, how would I invest $1,000 now? I mean, you could always just DCA it into some projects you are interested in, and if they drop, and if you get, say, dips like we had yesterday, then you could just put more in. But I would be very skeptical of this phase. I mean, you have to recognize that we are fairly overextended, and in the same way that people will continue saying who bought the dip, anytime price goes up, at some point we'll see a nice correction, then everyone will be saying, oh, well, you bought the top, what did you expect? Is there any technical analysis method I give validity to? Mainly momentum. Again, as I said before, I think momentum is probably the best type of analysis for a coin. Like, things that are moving up are more likely to move up than things that are not. Short-term moves are more akin to geometric Brownian motion or random walk, not something that we can reliably and consistently predict. If I had to fashion a guess how long this market cycle will continue before topping out, I guess it depends on what you mean by market cycle. I mean, if Bitcoin, do you consider, like, if I don't know what's going to happen in the short term, but if Bitcoin did something like this, where let's say it breaks 50K, maybe it goes to 55K, and then imagine it comes back down and it goes maybe to the 20-week moving average. If the 20-week moving average breaks, do you consider that to be the end of the cycle? Or what if it does something like this and then continues trending up much higher later on? I would personally consider this to be one cycle, right? I would consider that to just be one cycle where maybe we're trending up over the long term. If you consider that to be two cycles, then I would, it's probably not too many months off into the future. Lots of Link army in the chat. That's fine. Link is like one of my favorite coins. I mean, honestly, after Bitcoin and Ethereum, I mean, I like ADA too, right? Don't get me wrong. ADA's given me great returns in 2020 and 2021, but Link's been giving me good returns for a lot longer than that. Link is one of the few altcoins that's more than 10x above its prior all-time high from 2018, and ADA hasn't even made it there yet. I like ADA, and again, I think ADA is too early from it. It was too early for its time back in 2017 and 2018. But Link has consistently delivered year after year after year. So I think there's a reason why the Link army is in the chat, is because we make a lot of Chainlink videos, and Link has stood the test of time. I mean, look at the Link Bitcoin valuation. How many coins can say that this is their trend against Bitcoin? And you might say, oh, there's coins that do this. This is over 3.5 years. This is the Link Bitcoin chart. Over 3.5 years. We even fit this to an exponential fit band, and we're following this last year. We've fallen below it right now, but we're hoping to get back on track. There's not a lot of coins that have anywhere close to a move against Bitcoin as Link has had. So there's a reason the Link Army is in the chat, and they're more than welcome to be here. I don't consider myself to be. I don't marry an altcoin, right? I make money on them and I move along and don't really care if they revolutionize the space or not. Let's just be honest, right? And I think most people would agree with that. But I mean, I think like I would like for blockchain to integrate itself into society. I would like for that to happen. But if that happens and I don't make money on the idea of recognizing that that's likely going to happen, then I did something wrong. So I mainly just care about making money on it. At the end of the day, I'm not going to be that disappointed if any of the coins I follow don't pan out in the long term. As long as I made money on them along the way, then I'll write it off as a win. Now let's just be honest, right? I mean, the point of the channel, as I've said, is to make money, not to marry an altcoin. I cannot say if you're gonna make money. I cannot say that. I do own silver and gold. And as we typically say, do you guys know the other coin that I own? Or not coin, what other metal besides gold and silver? There's one more. I don't own a lot of them because again, their Sharpe ratios are fairly abysmal. I just have a tiny amount, but there's one other one that I have besides gold and silver. Yeah, you guys got it. Palladium. Oh, not. It's actually not platinum. It's palladium. It's pretty nice trend over the last few years. So hopefully it doesn't dump, but whatever. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, it's been a pretty good. I mean, this is up from 2016 up from $44 up to $223. I started streaming 83 minutes ago. Let's go back and see where that is. 83 minutes. Or 2 hours or 1 hour and 23 minutes. So I started streaming right here. It's not terrible. Well, I mean, I guess it is lower, but it's not terrible. Someone says palladium is real. Isn't that what Tony Stark used? I think he replaced the palladium in the arc reactor with vibranium, but that was what he replaced it with. Palladium is real. Yeah, I take profits on the way. It's only theoretical life-changing money until you take profits. Can I teach you short-term scalping? I can't teach you something that I don't do. Unobtainium is where it's at. Unobtainium is like what everyone uses to just create some random metal. They just call it like unobtainium. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I think it's vibranium. Let's take a look at the Ethereum dominance. What's the Ethereum dominance doing? Maybe this will be useful to look at. So this is the Ethereum dominance. We always talk about the Bitcoin dominance. So, it kind of comes up, and then it retraces, up, and then retraces, up, and then retraces. My guess is that maybe it'll continue to retrace for a few weeks, especially if Bitcoin goes into price discovery mode, or if altcoins continue to take off. But at some point, I anticipate it's gonna go back up. And if you look at the Ethereum dominance, it's had a pretty nice bottom pattern here, right? It's starting to trend back up. All right, I think we're going to wrap it up. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Give the video a thumbs up, but definitely subscribe. Turn on your alerts if you want to be notified of future videos. Remember, we have the premium list if you guys want to check that out, the altcoin season sale. Check it out in the description below or in the comments. And then also we have the Telegram channel into the cryptoverse. Over 16,000 people. If you guys are looking for a Telegram chat room to go talk about stuff, then you can check out that chat room. That'll wrap it up. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye.